Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let me tell you how I stood 5 feet away from my wife while she was wrapped in another man's arms, and how long it took her to notice I was even there. It was the sound that did it. That specific sound she makes when she laughs at something she really, really likes. Kind of this soft gasp, followed by a half snort. I hadn't heard it in months, but I heard it clearly across the restaurant. That's why I didn't need to see her face. That laugh was enough. I was supposed to be grabbing takeout. I had the order in my hand. I should have walked out. I really should have. But I turned my head just slightly to the right, and I froze. There she was. Violet. My wife of almost a decade. Her back to me. Her fingers gently playing with the collar of some guy's shirt as he leaned in, whispering something into her ear that made her giggle like she was 20 again. She was wearing the green dress. The green dress. The one she claimed didn't fit anymore. The one I hadn't seen since our anniversary 3 years ago. I thought she donated it. He touched her hand across the table. She didn't flinch. She smiled and leaned in closer. My heart should have been racing. But it wasn't. It was slow. Heavy. Like each beat had to drag itself through cement. I stood there. No one noticed. I was just another guy holding a paper bag. Invisible. Until I wasn't. I don't know what made me move. I just started walking. Not toward the door like I should have, but toward them. Quietly. Slowly. I walked like I was sleepwalking, like this was all some surreal nightmare I was watching from underwater. I reached the table. She didn't look up. Not when I stopped beside her. Not when I set the bag on the edge of the table. Not even when the guy looked at me, confused, half smiling like maybe I was the waiter bringing dessert. But when I said her name, softly, just once, that's when her whole body locked up. She turned. Her eyes met mine. And the look on her face? It wasn't guilt. It was terror. The second she saw me, her lips parted just slightly. Not to apologize. Not even to deny it. She just blinked. Like her brain hadn't caught up with reality yet. The man she was touching pulled his hand back slowly, but not in fear, in confusion. He glanced at her, then at me, then back at her again, like he was trying to piece together who the hell I was and why she suddenly looked like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't say anything. I just stood there with the bag of food I had picked up for us. The dinner she claimed she'd be too tired to eat. The plan was simple. I'd grab her favorite noodles and surprise her with a quiet night. But now that felt like a cruel joke I'd played on myself. She finally said it. My name. Like it was some unfamiliar word stuck to the roof of her mouth. Lol. Not oh my god, this isn't what it looks like. Now let me explain. Just, lol. I looked down at the table. 2 wine glasses. A half-finished plate of oysters. Her lipstick perfectly intact. And then I saw it, her wedding ring. In her purse. Open. Carelessly tossed on top of a tissue pack and a bottle of perfume she never wears around me. The man cleared his throat. Is there a problem here? I wanted to laugh. A problem? I wanted to scream that my entire marriage had collapsed in the span of a silent 3-minute observation. But instead, I did something worse. I smiled. No. No problem at all, I said, gently placing the takeout bag on the corner of their table. I just wanted to drop off Violet's dinner. You know, the one she said she'd be too tired to enjoy tonight. Clearly, her appetite returned. Her face turned a shade of pale I've never seen before. She opened her mouth, but again, no words. The man shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I turned and walked away, each step feeling both freeing and unbearable. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the car, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat in the parking lot, staring at my steering wheel, numb. I could still hear her laugh echoing in my ears. That laugh she used to reserve for our late-night drives, our movie nights, our inside jokes. Now it belonged to someone else. But this wasn't the end. Not even close. Because what happened next, neither of us could have seen coming. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I lay there in the dark on the couch, listening to the creaks in the walls and the ticking of the old thermostat. Violet didn't come home. Not that I expected her to, but some small, stupid part of me still watched the front door, half hoping it would creak open and I'd see her standing there, remorse written across her face, ready to confess everything. But she didn't come. Instead, at 2:17 a.m., I got a text. From her. Just one line. I'll explain in the morning. Please don't do anything rash. Rash. I hadn't even raised my voice. I hadn't followed them or made a scene. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw a drink or slap anyone or accuse her in public. I just dropped off the food and walked away. Politely, quietly, like the ghost of the husband she clearly didn't want anymore. I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. By 6 a.m., I was still wide awake, watching the early light hit the windows. I heard the car pull into the driveway. I didn't move. I heard the key in the door. Still didn't move. But when she stepped in, she stopped mid-step, like she didn't expect me to still be here. She didn't look wrecked. She didn't look like someone who had spent the night filled with guilt. She looked tired and annoyed. "Can we just talk?" she said, setting her purse down like she was coming home from a long meeting. I stayed silent. She sat down in the armchair across from the couch and started rubbing her temples like she was the victim. "Look, I know what it looked like. But there's context. There's history. You don't understand the pressure I've been under lately," and that's when her phone buzzed on the armrest. I don't know why I reached for it. Maybe because she'd just turned on the faucet of excuses and I was already drowning. Maybe because she'd been hiding so much. Maybe because I finally didn't care if it made me look like a jealous idiot. But the message was still on her lock screen. From someone named JM. "Last night was magic. I can still taste you. Does he suspect anything?" She lunged across the room, but it was too late. I didn't even look at her. I just handed the phone back to her gently. My voice was calm when I spoke. "Who's JM?" I asked. She stared at me, and I knew this wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be a war. She didn't answer at first, just stared at me like I'd spoken a language she didn't know. Her fingers tightened around the phone like she wanted to crush it into dust. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. Not out of humor, but that dry, bitter kind of laugh people use when they know they've been cornered and the only thing left is to pretend they're still in control. "You looked at my phone," she said, like that was the betrayal. I didn't respond, just kept looking at her, not with anger, but with the kind of hollow patience you develop after months of begging for attention and getting indifference in return. "Fine," she muttered, tossing the phone onto the coffee table. "Jam is someone I used to know. It was a mistake. It just happened. I didn't plan it. And no, I wasn't going to tell you, because I knew you'd spiral, like you always do." There it was. The spiral. Her favorite term for any time I expressed a feeling. When I worried, I was spiraling. When I cried after the second miscarriage, I was spiraling. When I tried to plan a weekend getaway and she said she was too mentally drained, and I got quiet for 2 days, spiraling. I stood up, not to yell, but because I couldn't sit there while she blamed me for the way she snuck around behind my back. "Did it start recently?" I asked, hoping for one scrap of clarity. "Or has this been going on for months?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Lowell. You want a timeline? Are you serious?" "Yes," I said. "I want the truth. For once." She crossed her arms, then uncrossed them, walked in a small circle like a cornered animal. 6 months, she finally said. Maybe more. I don't know. It was just supposed to be a distraction. That word, distraction, hit harder than the confession itself. I wasn't even a person to her anymore. I was background noise. She kept talking, but my brain started buzzing. 6 months. That meant birthdays, holidays, Sunday mornings, all spent smiling while this secret twisted beneath the surface. She tried to approach me, but I stepped back. And that's when I saw it, the tiniest flicker of fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, fear of losing control. "I want to talk to him," I said. "What?" she snapped. "I want to talk to JM. And suddenly, she looked terrified. Violet's eyes widened, like I'd just threatened to burn the house down. "You're not serious," she said, voice pitched somewhere between a command and a plea. "Why would you talk to him? What good is that going to do?" But I didn't answer her. I was already picking her phone up off the coffee table. My hands were steady, somehow steadier than they had been the entire week. I didn't know what I was going to say to him. I just knew I couldn't keep living in the fog of half-truths and edited memories she'd left me with. I needed a voice that didn't lie to me while wearing my wedding ring. I scrolled through her contacts. JM was listed under a fake business name, J&K Consulting. Clever. Buried between Jessica Dentist and Karen Pilates. If I hadn't seen the message, I wouldn't have thought twice. I tapped the number and walked to the hallway, not wanting to hear Violet pacing behind me. It rang once, then twice. My stomach churned. I almost ended the call. But on the third ring, someone answered. "Hello," the voice said, deep, confident, slightly amused. Not young, not old. A voice that sounded like it belonged to a man who'd never been told no in his life. "Is this J. M.?" I asked. There was a pause. "Who's this?" "My name's Lowell. I'm Violet's husband." Another pause, longer this time. I expected him to hang up, or maybe laugh, or deny everything. But instead, he sighed, like I'd just brought him into a mess he was hoping to avoid. "I figured this was coming," he said. I walked into the garage and closed the door behind me. "How long have you been seeing her?" "Off and on for about a year," he said casually, like he was talking about weather patterns. "It started at one of those hotel networking things. Drinks turned into dinner. Dinner turned into, well, you know how these things go." No, I didn't. I'd never accidentally ruined someone's marriage over ravioli and red wine. "She never said she was married," he added quickly. "Not at first. When I found out, I tried to back off." "Did you?" I asked. Silence. Then, she kept coming back. That hit harder than I thought it would, because I knew it was true. Violet was the kind of person who couldn't stand still unless someone was watching her, admiring her. She chased attention like oxygen. I used to think I was enough. "She told me you two were separated," he added. "She said you were cold, controlling." I felt like the walls were tilting. "Did she also tell you I made her breakfast every Sunday and planned surprise anniversaries alone?" He didn't answer that one. But the part that truly broke me? He said, "Look, I didn't want this. I didn't want you to get hurt." And for the first time in this whole mess, I laughed. Loud. Bitter. "You think I just got hurt?" I said. "I lost everything, and I'm still living in the same house as the person who lit the match." I hung up before he could respond. I didn't go back inside right away. I sat in the garage with the phone still in my hand, staring at the cracks in the concrete like they had answers. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger requires energy, and whatever Violet hadn't drained, that phone call finished off. I felt hollow, like a shell that used to be someone's husband. When I finally walked back in, she was standing in the kitchen, arms folded, already on the offensive. "What did you say to him?" "I asked for the truth," I said quietly. Her mouth twisted. "You had no right." "No right." I interrupted, and it came out sharp. Not yelling, but it had weight. Enough to make her blink. "You had no right. To drag me through a year of lies. To make me think our marriage was just in a slump when you were out there playing pretend with a man who barely remembers your middle name." She bit her lip, hard. That always meant she was about to spin something. And sure enough, here it came. I was going to end it. I was. But then things got complicated. "And you were so fragile lately. I didn't want to push you over the edge." There it was again. Me being the problem. Me being the delicate vase she couldn't bear to shatter. I almost laughed. "You weren't protecting me, Violet. You were protecting the version of you that still gets to play the devoted wife while sneaking off to someone's hotel room." That one landed. For the first time since this began, she didn't have a comeback. Just stood there, breathing shallow, fingers twitching like she wanted to throw something but couldn't find a weapon sharp enough. "I'm going to need you to leave for a few days," I said. Her eyes snapped up. "Excuse me. I need space," I said, calmer than I felt. "You can go to your sister's, or a hotel, or wherever you spent those other nights. I need to breathe without your perfume clinging to everything I own." "You're kicking me out of my own house?" she snapped. "Our house," I corrected. "The one I've been paying for while you built your fantasy life with a man who thinks cold and controlling means I meal prep and fold laundry." She stood there for a long time, jaw tight, chest rising and falling. But then, to my surprise, she walked upstairs. No fight, no tears, just silence. She packed in 20 minutes. Didn't say goodbye, didn't even slam the door. And for the first time in a long time, I was alone in my home. But peace didn't come with it. Because that night, I opened her laptop, and what I found made everything worse. I didn't go looking to torture myself. I swear I didn't. When Violet walked out with her suitcase, I sat in silence for almost an hour, just listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. But her laptop was open on the dining table. It was still glowing, lid halfway closed like it was waiting for someone to peek inside. I told myself not to touch it. I even stood up and walked to the sink just to get away from it. But curiosity isn't harmless. It's a slow kind of self-destruction, especially when you're already cracked. I opened it. Her email was still logged in. First thing I noticed was a folder labeled miscellaneous. That alone made my chest tighten. Nobody hides receipts and shopping lists in a folder that vague. I clicked. Inside were 27 subfolders. Some were titled by dates, others by locations. One literally said, "Laughter in Lisbon." We've never been to Lisbon. I clicked the most recent one, Denver trip. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Her and him at a rooftop bar. Her in a bathrobe, smiling at the camera like she'd just woken up in the arms of a man who worshipped her. Videos too. A short clip of her twirling in a mirror, whispering, "He has no idea." I nearly dropped the laptop. But what destroyed me more than the images was the spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet. Titled Cover Stories. It was a list of excuses, color-coded, with dates, locations, and notes. Things like, "Tell Lowell you're visiting Lydia," confirmed, and say office meeting ran late. Already told Sandra to back me up if he asks. It was organized betrayal. Strategic. Premeditated. Like cheating wasn't just an accident of emotion, but a full-time job she planned down to the hour. I don't know how long I stared at it. I think part of me hoped I'd wake up, that I'd open my eyes and find her asleep on the couch next to me, snoring slightly, wrapped in our old quilt. But this was real. Every folder, every lie, every smile that was meant for someone else, real. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. And now, it was my turn to make one too. I didn't tell her what I saw. Not then. Not the pictures, not the videos, not the spreadsheet. I didn't scream, didn't call her names, didn't try to make her feel what I was feeling, because I finally understood something. People like Violet don't change when confronted. They change when they're replaced. That night, I packed a bag and booked a 3-week rental cabin 3 towns over. Quiet place, middle of nowhere. No cell service unless you hiked half a mile up a hill. I left her a note. Not emotional, just direct. I saw everything. You can have the house for now. Don't contact me unless it's through a lawyer. Then I vanished. I didn't check her social media. Didn't reply to the 21 texts she sent over the next week. Didn't answer when she called at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. It wasn't easy. The part of me that still loved who she used to be begged to look back. But I didn't. Instead, I sat on a creaky porch, drank terrible coffee, and listened to wind instead of excuses. I wrote down things I hadn't let myself say in years. I walked without a destination. I let myself feel foolish and furious and free, sometimes all at once. And one morning, while watching fog roll over the hills, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Not because I had revenge. Not because she apologized. But because I finally chose me. 2 months later, the divorce papers were signed. She cried in the parking lot. Said she never thought I'd go through with it. Said she made a mistake. I nodded. Not cruelly, just knowingly. Because she didn't make a mistake. She made 100 decisions that led to a spreadsheet. Now I'm back in a smaller place. 1 bedroom. Sunlight hits the kitchen just right in the mornings. I started journaling again. I stopped waiting to be chosen. And strangely, I'm okay. I'm not broken. I'm becoming. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. What moment from this story hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if you've ever walked away from something that was breaking you, you're stronger than you think.